Bonjour, good morning. I'm Christophe Morange, and with Judith Gatt from PhD from Aix-Marseille MoMArch Honor Frost Foundation. We will chair this session, and this session is dedicated to southeast Mediterranean coast, and we will begin by one lecture on Egypt, and I have the pleasure to invite Gamal Younes. He's my PhD student with another colleague from Aix-Marseille University and Besançon University. And Gamal will speak in order to represent another PhD student, Ader Sheisha Adir. Unfortunately, she got a zona and she's recovering step by step. It was quite strong. So, Gamal, you have 15 minutes to present the work of the team.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for your coming today. And it's an honor to present this work to you. It's talking about the Giza. It's good to start with this photo from the early morning from Giza pyramids. And the title of our work, it was Nile Water Escapes Facilitated the Construction of the Giza Pyramids during the 3rd millennium BC. And this work, it was done by a group this project, it was like cooperation work between Aix-Marseille University and Ain Shams University in Cairo, NEANIAS, its Institute of Geophysics in Cairo, and Toulouse University, and CNRS, and OBHO in Paris, and the last one is East China Normal University from China. The first photo that we can see here, it's showing the location of the pyramids up of the plateau of Giza from limestone plateau, and just behind of the pyramids, at the foot of the pyramids, there is the floodplain of the Nile in this area. So it was just close from this area. Now I can present the current situation of the area. We can see right here in the western side the Giza pyramids up to the Giza plateau with limestone in this part, and then the floodplain just eastern side of the Giza pyramids, as we mentioned, and it's now urbanized. So the pink color here, it's the urbanized area, all of it, and it's worth to mention that the pyramids now, the location of the pyramids now, it's so far from the current Nile River, around 7 kilometers, and there is some agriculture area in between. So the current map to the situation, and the big question that we have now, how the pharaonic, the ancient Egyptian built the pyramid on the top of the Giza plateau, and they move the material. So the question of the material, we will answer it. What is the source of this material? It was the limestone from Tura, its eastern side of Giza pyramids, around 17 kilometers. And the second source, it was the granite stone from Aswan, southern side of Egypt, around 900 kilometers south of Egypt. And it's worth to mention that few years ago, the mission from Sorbonne University, they discovered a lot of papyrus in Wadi Garf site. It was excavation right here, and they discovered a lot of papyrus that it's talking about the period of the builders, the age builders of the pyramids in the Giza, and they talk about the organization of the site and the royal construction. This papyrus, it's dating back for the end of the King Khufu period. So it was related by this. And here we can see the material, the stones, the limestones, it's just right here. And the granite stone, it was covered partially the down and up parts of the pyramids. And now it's destroyed for a lot of reasons. One of them, the king of Egypt, Muhammad Ali, from 200 years ago, he moved part of them to build his mosque in the castle of Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi in Cairo. So these blocks, it's moved, thousands of blocks moved for more than 9 100 kilometers from south from Aswan, and the others it's moved. So the big question now, how this big material it's moved. There is a lot of theory about this. There is a lot of study. They study the floodplain that it's just behind of the pyramids. And this one is done by Mark Lehner in 2014. It's published by Mark Lehner and his group. It was suggest that it was the situation during the age of Giza pyramids builders, and he make this imagination from a lot of data that it was first of it was topographic data for the topography of the site, and the second it was archaeological excavation that it's happened. So he drew an image for the area, and also he analyzes some, not make the analysis, but he read the report of American company that it was work in the area, and they make some coring and they write report. So he look at this report and make his imagination. And there is two model for it. These two models, it depends about the flood season, because we know the rainfall is fall down in the Ethiopian plateau in the summer. So the flood is arriving to Egypt late August through October. So it's almost 2 months in Egypt there is a Nile flood. So in the Nile flood, it's covered all this area, and in the dry season, just this area. So the depth here in the dry season, around 3 meters from the surface, and then it's rising 7 meters during the flood season. So it's covered all this area, and some nazla or comb, it's mean hill to the people that they can use for stay and to build the settlement on it. So it's like an island between, and here it's disappeared because it's less 7 meters. So he drew this clear imagination for the model for the area, and we start from this point, and we find, and before he mentioned here, some dikes or dams to keep the water in the dry season time. So these dikes or these dams, they discovered some of them just behind of the site. This one of excavation field work that it's made in 1995 in the place of Zaghloul Street. So now it's called Zaghloul Street. So this area from this side, it's Zaghloul Street, and this area, it's Mansouriya Street. Between them, it was Khufu Marina or Khufu Harbour, and it's called in Hieroglyphian language. This is the name of it in Hieroglyphian language, and this is the main channel of the Balio Channel that it's called Khufu Channel. And this is the dike that we mentioned. And then the aims of this study to reconstruct, in fact, the hydrological history of Khufu branch in the dry, wet times, what it was, the level of the Nile at this periods, and in the floodplain area. That's next in the foots of the pyramids. To see if the pharaonic people, they used this Balio channel to build their pyramids. And also, we will see anthropogenic impact dredging agriculture in the area. So first of all, what's our methodology? The methodology to make coring. So the first thing, we went in the study area in May 2019, and we make 5 coring, and depending about the model of Mark Lehner and the site that he said that Balio channel, it was passing from here, and the Balio Harbour that it was. So this is the site of the 5 cores. In this study, especially, we used 2 cores, that's Giza 1 and Giza 4. We used them because it was almost likely to be inside the channel, and also it was very rich by the pollen proxy, the pollen grains, that this is the proxy that we used. So in this study, it was worth to mention that this area, it was complicated. We have all the authorization, official authorization, but it was difficult to find a place to make coring. So it was like taking private permission from the people to make it. The lithology, to talk about it, Giza 1 and Giza 4, as we mentioned the cores, It's dominated by silt and clay, most of it, and the dating result of it, it's mentioned that it's dating back to the Pharaonic period. So it was good to present this period, that we search about, and also the human-made for the up-surface layers that they make the land more stable for urbanization. In fact, it's very modern. So for the age model, we make dating for the organic clay in Poznan radiocarbon laboratory, and we built the age model with our program, the package of our program for all of them. And the laboratory work, it was done by Hadir Shaisha for more than 100 samples in MBU lab. So it was done by it. It's following the protocol, clay samples preparation protocol, and it's done by the microscope after preparing the slides and examined by microscopes. And she used also with Dr. Jamali, Murtaza Jamali, and they used atlas and boxes to do this, to define them. So the result, it's the pollen. So the methodology, it was coring, dating, pollen. So this is the two cores. We discovered 61 pollen taxa types and grouped in 7 groups. The top 3 groups, it's referring to the Nile water level that it was here. The first group, as example, is Siberiaceae. It's mean the Biberus grained pollen, right here. And the second one is Helophytes. It's referred to water body, a stable water body for a long time in the area. And also tropical Neolithic, that the Nile carried them from the Ethiopian plateau till this area. So the first 3 groups, it's indicate the water level of the Nile during the time. And the other 4 groups, it's dry land pollen, date palm as example, and also it's herbs and ferns, and the most interesting is cereals. So there's some examples from them. This figure showing the first one in blue, showing the Nile floodplain, the Nile, it's mean the Nile pollen that they carry them, it's referred to the level of the water and referred to 2 patterns of vegetation. The first is related by the level of water in the Nile, and the second is related by the dry pollen in the area. So, and this, it's referred, this red triangle, the period of the building of the pyramids, that it's right here. And then we used this pollen that it's referred to the level water in the Nile to draw the level during the time, during the last 8,000 years. And here we focus about the period of the building of the pyramids in the area. So this the 3 pyramids, Khufu, Khafra, Munkhara. It's the main archaeological, it's not just this in the area, of course. So the level, the water level, it was so high in the beginning of during the African human period, of course, in this part. So after this, it's declined before the early dynastic period. So the green Sahara, it's finished at this time, and the human immigrate from the desert to the valley of the Nile, and they make civilization after, they make settlement. And this, it's from beginning the early dynastic period. During the pharaonic period, during the old kingdom period, the 400 years, the Nile, it was more stable, and this offered the pharaonic to be stable life and to be more stable and more built. So the level, because he referred me that just 1 minute, so I have to finish. So this is why when I stop speaking or, okay, it's nice, you are enjoying? Nice, so I take my time. I take my time. Doesn't matter. Don't show me the time again. Yeah. So I will begin again with this figure because I don't explain it very well. So this map is referring for the African human period, that the level of the water in the Nile, it was high. Then it's declined during the Old Kingdom period, the first period of Pharaonic Kingdom. It was declined around 40% of that reached during the African humid period. But it was the level of the Nile, it was more stable for the people to build their settlement, to build the pyramids, to organize the area, to plan it, to make agriculture area, to make their life, to make the civilization, in fact. So all the old kingdom, that it's just here, and especially during the 4th dynasty period, that the pyramids was built in it. So this diagram is mentioned like this, and then we stopped in Old Kingdom because we study the period of value. So it's referred to the level of the water in the Nile. And the last slide that I would like to speak is the anthropogenic impact. So here we have the historical periods. So the African humid period, it's just right there. Then the pre-dynastic, early dynastic, Old Kingdom period. And we find when we make the diagram of formula with the pollen that it's related by human activities, by agriculture, I mean, the agriculture of cereals. So we find 3 peaks. One of them, it's coincide with the age of the pyramids age, so the Old Kingdom period. And it was, the level of it was so high. So there is 3 peaks of agriculture impact in Khufu Plain. One of them, it was coincide with the pyramids building. And the record agricultural peaks correspond to low level of Khufu branch. And we mentioned this, that is when the level of the water is stable. So this allow the people to make agriculture, to plan the area, to make their life and their settlement. So after this, the cereals, the agriculture dominated by cereals, was important economy activity that it was in the area. So it was the end, but it's mentioned, it's worth to mention that the article is published in 29 of August in Ibnas journal. And also it's make a lot of things. It's published also all the journals like New York Times, Le Monde, Le Figaro, Daily Mail and Mail Online, and more than 100 journals that they publish it. Finally, it's good to finish by this image that it show Giza pyramids area during from 140 years almost ago. And it's showing almost in the flood time, flood season. And this is Nazlet El Batran, one island from the island that it was just behind of the Giza. So in this article, we mentioned that the water landscapes facilitated the building or the construction of the pyramids of Giza in the 3rd millennium BC. And thank you for your attention. And I need some water. And I... thank you.
It's nice to you to present the main work of Azir.
Thank you.
Any question? No question? Alors, yeah.
No, I'd just say it was a wonderful lecture, and it shows that it's so important that we are in a wide area of the ancient world, so that us, for example, classical archaeologists can also learn something new. So, congratulations.
Lucy?
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was really interesting. You didn't reference the other cores, and I was wondering if they tallied with the previous interpretation of the lake and blah blah blah. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who did the work. I mean, what you presented was really interesting, but I'm just wondering about the other cores, because you had 5 cores, I think, and you only looked at the ones that were predominantly in the main channel. What about the ones closer to the pyramids? Did the results of that correspond to the previous results from Lechner, or Mark, I think his name was?
First of all, thank you for your question. I mentioned this in my presentation, that it was the most reached by Bullen, because we used Bullen proxy.
Yeah.
So these 2 cores, it was the most reached. The other, it was very, very poor. We examined them, but they was very, very poor. And this 2 also, it's most likely to be inside the main channel of Khufu, in fact.
So, but you didn't do analysis of the other cores, regardless of the pollen?
Yes. We make them in other studies, so it's
okay. All right, I'll look forward to hearing about that as well then. Thank you, but no, it's really interesting, fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you.
We should do more of it in other parts of the river, I think.
Thank you very much.
You showed us very, very beautifully that the ships or rafts or whatever could approach the pyramids loaded with building material. What is our data on the ways, on quays and malls and docks where they could unload their cargoes around the harbors? You know what I mean?
It's so clear for me, this point. Can you repeat, please?
What are your evidence about, I mean, we can see from that that...
the evidence.
Yeah, the evidence about the docks and the harbor facilities where they would unload stone cargoes, which are very particular cargo, it's not amphora. They need infrastructures. Is there any evidence of any moles or things like that?
Yeah, in fact, the evidence from this proxy that we used, we study the floodplain of the area, that we find, first of all, we find the Bullen, that it's repair for the Nile activity, for the Nile high activity. It's mean large amount of water in the area, in the site. So this is
so you worked on the size of the canal of the floodplain, right?
Yes.
So this is the data you've been working in. Okay,
exactly.
Thank you.
Yanis, if I understand well your question, it's an archaeological question, and if I can give some elements, there is very few data. Why? Because we are under 1 million cities. It's urban geoarchaeology with almost impossibility. So there is these few salvage, I don't know if we can say salvage, quick excavation during construction work and slides from Zahiawas in journal, but it's very weak. So it's one way to try to progress in the archaeological history of the pyramids, the transport of the block.
Yeah.
It's one proxy, but I agree with you, it's very poor from a pure archaeological information. But maybe one day with, sewer system or parking.
The coming studies to make another proxies, yes. And also the archaeological excavation, it was just around of the area, all the area. They discover, as example, some dikes here, the temple of Khufu just right here, and also a lot of construction settlements, it was around. That Mark Leonard, that he make the model that I show, he depends about it to make his model, in fact. The archaeological excavation, as example, he said that, yes, the harbor, it was most likely to be here, and he drew the map of the Nile.
Thank you, Gamal. Thank you.
You're welcome. There is